What's up, guys? Welcome to Superior Self Sunday. I wanted to create an episode or a series of episodes on Sundays in particular, just to show you what my practice looks like in reconnecting with that higher self or that part of my being that is that knows more than I do. um, it is a practice that you can do it on any day of the week. I just typically do it on Sundays because it's what I'm conditioned to do. Let's just face it. Growing up, we would go to Sunday service and I just hated it. I hated the formality of it. Getting up, getting dressed, putting on your Sunday best, and going to a place where they are teaching you about spirituality, I guess, or religion, but basically telling you what you should not be doing. And I never really connected with that. It was always in my own exploration where I connected the most with God and that higher self. And so through my curiosity and through my exploration, I have found a bunch of authors that I wanted to share with you guys and share some of my own insight about my interpretation of those texts. So like Thich Nhat Hanh is one. Wayne Dyer has been a huge mentor in my life. We share the same birthday, by the way. So I don't know if there's any relationship there or not, but through their teachings, I've been able to find that part of myself that is connected with source, connected with the universe, connected with the higher consciousness. And I can tap into it. Paulo Coelho is another one. His book, The Alchemist. I mean, these are just demonstrations of people tapping into that source and being able to create pieces of art through literature. I mean, I've been able to do it on the show. Traditionally, my show is a interview-based style of show, but I wanted to create a one-on-one format with you, the audience, and kind of give you some insight about me and give you a little bit more context or gain more context about me as the host and what my philosophies are. And I wanted to connect with you and just see what your feedback is about this style of show. It's a little different than most, I think. I don't know if a lot of people do this. I will. I don't plan on having any formality with it. Just kind of going from, shooting from the hip, I guess, but also just kind of being vulnerable and open to you and connecting with you in this safe space that I want to create, because I think it's important that we have that relationship. So you can see who I am as a person and I get to know you as my audience. But ultimately, I feel like Sundays are so sacred to me because it's a time where the veil is thin for me in the morning, especially in my meditations and when I'm reading some of the books. I'm able to tap back into that part of us that is a fractal of a fractal of the whole. It is remembering what we're here to do and learning from our experiences. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are a fractal of the whole, learning through separation. These are my philosophies. These are my experiences. And to be able to share some of that with you is an honor. And I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this. And hopefully you gain something from this and you can take it out into the world and you can spread that positivity to others that will spread. And hopefully we can become more aware about what it is we're truly here for. And this, I mean, as far as our individual paths and finding peace and serenity in community, that's a huge one for me. It's connecting, because I'm more of a lone wolf most of the time, and to be able to create a community that is based upon finding big truth and connecting with that and spreading that positivity and spreading that knowledge to others is very important to me. So that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this. It's very early on a Sunday morning. I wasn't able to run because of the weather, but I was able to get a deep meditation in. And my intuition is just pulling me in this direction of kind of doing these one-on-ones and just touching base with you and just giving you some insight about my spirituality and what that path looks like. And yeah, this coffee tastes really good too. But I wanted to get started with just kind of like a grounding technique of meditation, not meditation, but a breathing technique of taking 3 inhales and exhales, holding for 2 seconds, but making sure that the exhale is longer than the inhale, and feeling your body and whatever comes up for you. But while you're doing this, remember to place 1 hand over your heart, or you can place 2 hands over your heart, depending upon your preference. But connecting with that heart space that is our compass for our intuition and points us in the direction that we should follow. So go ahead and take a moment to kind of connect with yourself and feel your body and get grounded in that space of where you're residing. Place your hand over your heart space, your heart chakra, whatever you want to call that. And take a deep breath in. As I take a breath out. All right, hold on. Here we go. Breath in. Hold for 2 seconds. Breath out. You can close your eyes when you do this, but feel your body. This is a grounding technique in your body to feel it, whatever comes up. Take a deep inhale. Hold for 2 seconds. Exhale. Now allow that exhale to keep going. One last time. Hold for 2 seconds. Exhale. Feel your body. Deeply feel it. What comes up. Place your awareness on that and be grateful for that. Be grateful for that experience, to be able to experience this body, to be able to experience this physical reality right now where you're at. And I want you to be grateful for one thing right now. And I want you to say it aloud or in your mind what it is you're grateful for. I'm grateful for this opportunity to connect with you on this platform, on this day, and to truly be here and make myself vulnerable, and to be open to that vulnerability, to allow it to grow me and my spirituality and in finding my true self. So thank you for this experience. Thank you for that opportunity. So now I just kind of want to go over the book that I've been reading recently. Not all of it, just a little bit of it, piece by piece, I think is probably the best way to do this. So like next week, this works out, I'll do this again. But this is, I wanted to share some insight from The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Now, I found this book while I was at the beach in Lewis, Delaware. Shout out to Lewis, Delaware, in Sussex County, where I'm from. Now, I'm not from Lewis, but I'm from Sussex County. But I love this little bookstore. It's called a Biblion. It's a used bookstore. And I just love the feeling of it going in there. It's like all of these old books that people have traded in over the years. And sometimes you'll find books that have highlights or markings in them. I found a bunch of hypnotherapy books once, and it had like actual like tuition rates at a local nursing school. It was pretty cool to see. But that to me it's so fun because you don't know what you're going to find in the margins, like notes, maybe some insight that person has had in their life that may help you on your spiritual journey. And I kind of just stumbled upon this, the Four Agreements, by Don Miguel. Just kind of popped out because I'm like, I walk into this bookstore and I don't really know what I'm looking for. I just kind of rely on my intuition to take me to a certain, obviously I'm going to the spirituality section, but I don't really know what book I'm looking for. And I'm searching and I'm not really seeing a whole lot of that are piquing my interest or resonating. But this book, it's funny. I just saw it. It's smaller than the rest, but it was like throughout that week that the Four Agreements had kind of been brought into my awareness. Like I would hear it on a radio, not radio, but in a YouTube interview from someone, or somebody made a recommendation of this, but it just kept popping up. And so I was like, all right, so I'm meant to buy this book. It's $5 too. I mean, you can't beat that at a used bookstore. But it's been very, very interesting. I didn't really know this is the first book that I read of his, and I didn't really know what he was about, but to give you a little context, I think his spiritual awakening happened during a near-death experience in like the 1970s, where he was kind of sparked to go down that path of curiosity of like what it is we truly are. And that was the same thing for me, really, was some of the literature on near-death experiences kind of sparked that interest of finding out what we are, what it is that we truly are. Because let's face it, religion doesn't do that most of the time. Well, maybe it does, but it didn't do that. It didn't do that for me. I would find common threads throughout each near-death experience. And I read a lot of them. And they all can't be talking to each other. Like they can't all be sharing the same information. Yeah, that you have like this objective experience that may be different, slightly different than the next. But when I followed that path of curiosity, it led me to Dr. Raymond Moody, who did research on this, that had like actual literature on near-death experience. He's the one that claimed the near-death experience. And there's actually an episode where I interview him. He's such a great man, such a kind man. And which led me to other areas of interest that ultimately led me to where I'm at today. So I share that commonality with Don Miguel, with the near-death experience leading us to our curiosity. And so I just kind of want to keep this episode short, like all the rest of them. I don't want to go too deep into the book, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. But I think it's important that we connect. And I think it's important that we share a safe space that we can come together and connect and re-energize each other and remember what we are through the teachings of teachers like Don Miguel. And so I'll read a little bit of the intro, and then we'll talk, and then that'll be it. And we'll talk again next week about maybe the first the first of the four agreements, depending upon how well this what the feedback is on this episode. The Toltec, and I hope that's how you say it, but for thousands of years, they were known throughout Mexico as women and men of knowledge. They were scientists and artists who formed a society to explore and conserve the spiritual knowledge and practices of the ancient ones. Now, that's kind of like a question, like, who are the ancient ones? If these guys are ancient thousands and thousands of years ago, then who were the ancient ones to them? So that's a little bit of a interesting point there. But they took this knowledge that they grew to, that they accumulated, and they hid it amongst their culture because of the European conquest and misuse of personal power. I guess some of this knowledge can lead us down that road, that path of self-empowerment, to remember who we truly are and to be able to paint a new reality. And so that's how powerful this stuff is. But they pass it through generation to generation. And then Don Miguel, who comes from the Eagle Knight lineage, was guided to share these powerful teachings of the four agreements in this book. And again, this is a teaching of truth. It's not religion, it's truth. And how do you know if it's truth or not? Like I said earlier, I think I said earlier, your heart is your compass. That is where the intuition resides. And many times in my meditation, it has been described to me as my compass. It has been described to me as the knowing that you're doing the right thing and the knowing that you're going down the right path or making the right decision. If your heart, if it resonates with your heart area, that is permission to keep going. So depending upon who you're reading, get out of your senses, get out of your head, and really get into your heart. That's where you fact check most of the teachings to see if it resonates with you. And if it doesn't, then put it down. It may not be time yet, but also there are teachers out there that are teaching from ego, and maybe that's your experience, to kind of experience that for yourself and to go down that path and to realize for yourself what that looks like. But for me, I kind of go off the heart. I really do go off the heart. And that's how I know what truth is. Like when I start resonating with any type of literature or scripture or book, if my heart's in it, if my heart feels right, then I know it's truth. Man, that coffee's good. But I'll just go ahead and read the introduction because it's not too long, and I think it's very important. 3,000 years ago, there was a human just like you and me who lived near a city surrounded by mountains. The human was studying to become a medicine man, to learn the knowledge of his ancestors, but he didn't completely agree with everything he was learning. Wow, that's me. In his heart, he felt there was, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of laughing because the heart's popping up again. In his heart, he felt there must be something more. One day he slept in a cave. He dreamed he saw his own body sleeping. He came out of the cave on the night of a new moon. The sky was clear and he could see millions of stars. Then something happened inside of him that transformed his life forever. He looked at his hands, he felt his body, and he heard his own voice say, "I am made of light. I am made of stars." He looked at the stars again and he realized that it's not the stars that create light, but rather light that creates the stars. Everything is made of light, he said, and the space in between isn't empty. And he knew that everything that exists is one living being, and that light is the messenger of life because it is alive and contains all information. Then he realized that although he was made of stars, he was not those stars. I am in between the stars, he thought. So he called the stars the tonal and the light between the stars the nagual. And he knew that what created the harmony and space between the two is life or intent. Without life, the tonal and the nagual could not exist. Life is the force of the absolute, the supreme, the creator who creates everything. This is what he discovered. Everything in existence is a manifestation of the one living being we call God. Everything is God. And he came to the conclusion that human perception is merely light perceiving light. He also saw that matter is a mirror Everything is a mirror that reflects light and creates images of that light. And the world of the illusion, the dream, is just like smoke, which doesn't allow us to see what we really are. The real us is pure love, pure light, he said. This realization changed his life. Once he knew what he really was, he looked around at other humans and the rest of nature and was amazed at what he saw. He saw himself in everything, in every human, in every animal, in every tree, in the water, in the rain, in the clouds, in the earth. And he saw that life mixed the tonal and the nagual in different ways to create billions of manifestations of life. In those few moments, he comprehended everything. He was very excited and his heart was filled with peace. He could hardly wait to tell his people what he had discovered, but there were no words to explain it. He tried to tell the others, but they could not understand. They could see that he had changed, that something beautiful was radiating from his eyes and his voice. They noticed that he no longer had judgment about anything or anyone. He was no longer like anyone else. He could understand everyone very well, but no one could understand him. They believed that he was an incarnation of God, and he smiled when he heard this, and he said, "It is true, I am God, but you are also God. We are the same, you and I. We are images of light. We are God." But still the people didn't understand him. He had discovered that he was a mirror for the rest of the people, a mirror in which he could see himself. Everyone is a mirror, he said. He saw himself in everyone, but nobody saw but nobody saw him as themselves. And he realized that everyone was dreaming, but without awareness, without knowing what they really are, they couldn't see him as themselves because there was a wall of fog or smoke between the mirrors. And the wall of fog was made by the interpretation of images of light, the dream of humans. Then he knew that he would soon forget all that he had learned. He wanted to remember all the visions he had, so he decided to call himself Smoky Mirror so that he would remember. He said, "I am the smoky mirror because I am looking at myself and all of you. But we don't recognize each other because of the smoke in between us. The smoke is the dream, and the mirror is you, the dreamer." Pretty powerful stuff.